Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Split Second Broadcasting's continued coverage of the 11th season of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. As this evening, we get ready for the running of the Casey's 150 at the Iowa Speedway. Short track racing going to serve as the appetizer to your championship entree next week at the Texas Motor Speedway. Two drivers in the hunt for the championship right now. Will it be those two when we get to next week? I'm Seth Cole alongside of Ross Brockman. And Ross, it seems like here tonight, a handful of drivers to mathematically have a shot at the championship are relying on the top two to run into some trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the only opportunity they're going to have to get back in this. I was kind of looking at, some of these drivers that are double digits out that, Jackson Sims, Elliott Henderson, Christian Peterson. A strong run tonight would help, of course, but you need a little bit of help, and that's tough to wish for, but it's a short track, Iowa. You might have a handful of incidents and cautions that give you that chance, but I think ultimately not as much of a wild card as we've had in these playoffs, and a fun driver's track that I think a lot of the drivers in this league have been clamoring for, to go to a place like Iowa. It's a great short track and fun action that I think we're going to see tonight with us only 1 week away from crowning a champion.
175 laps here tonight, going to be the shortest scheduled distance race that we have run here in the playoffs, as the battle for that championship between the defending champion Hunter Madalinas, but sits 7 points behind Matthew Weeks. Now, both of these drivers ran well here back in season 10. Matthew Weeks started second, brought it home in the top 5 and 5th. The problem for him is the driver that's trying to run him down not only won this event last time out, but led 199 of the scheduled 200 laps.
Yeah, just a great performance from Madalinas the last time we raced at Iowa, and of course you got to be nervous of that happening again, but he's starting a little bit farther back.
Bungie Motorsports, they've won 3 of the last 4 events, very good at these short flat ovals, and they've got the front row with Christian Peterson, last week's winner, alongside of 2-time winner Jared Duda.
Starting third is our points leader, Matthew Weeks, in the 56, and starting to his right, the 49 of Shane Nicelonger.
Elliott Henderson, surprisingly, this is a track he hasn't yet to win at here in the Great Lakes Truck Series, as he'll share the third row with Jackson Sims.
Starting 7th is the 7 of Hunter Madalinas there. I guess I was going to say, starting a little farther back. 7th seems a little farther back for a guy like Hunter, but obviously up in the top 10 here. Josh Robin, the great qualifying run in the 8, starts 8th.
It's the Casey's 150, and the number 1 Casey's machine of Jared Darling would love to go to victory lane here tonight. He's going to be in that 5th row, completing the top 10 with Brent Kincott.
Starting 11th is the 85 of Cy Jackson. It's been fun to watch Cy Jackson the last handful of weeks. And then starting in 12th, the 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald.
A couple of drivers back in row 7 trying to close out the season strong. Nicholas Caressel on the inside, Eric Kempf on the outside.
Starting 15th, one of our playoff drivers who's a little farther back in the points, but still contending here in the 18, Matthew Durr. And the 10 of Hunter Brittle starts 16th.
Row 9 going to find the 13, Lewis Woodall. To his outside, Kurt Gibson in the 45.
Handful of drivers that didn't make a qualifying lap, including some playoff drivers from this season. The 23 of Spencer Owens and the 26 of Ashton Lawson.
22 drivers going to take the green flag here tonight. It's the final row, comprised of Rod Fastnow and Robin Durr. Matthew Weeks, 7 points in hand over Madalinas. He'll have a little bit more of an advantage with where the two are respectively starting. Weeks on the inside of row 2, Madalinas on the inside of row 4. Christian Peterson looking for back-to-back victories here in the playoffs, looking for his 5th win on the season. Correction, 6th win on the season, as he will leave them in the dust off of turn 2.
Great start for Peterson in that 71. Like I said, he's basically on the edge of still having a shot at this title. It's going to have to be a perfect night tonight. So best way to start off perfect is by leading lap 1.
Yeah, we talked to him last week after he picked up that 5th victory, and he says obviously he would love to still be in the hunt for that championship, but also focusing on the team championship as well. Manji Motorsports coming in tonight 20 points in hand over Dark Horse Motorsports, and as we mentioned, he and his teammate Jared Duda, 3 out of the last 4 venues they have gone to victory lane. You kind of figure that a track like this would fit right into the wheelhouse of someone like Jared Duda. A couple of victories this season at Martinsville and Rockingham, as looks like Jared Darling coming off of pit road actually missed the start.
This is a tough place to be down already, but a long race. You got some opportunities to get some cautions to maybe get back in this, get a free pass, get back going in that Casey's truck here in the Casey's race here in Iowa. So hopefully you can get that second life with a caution or two, maybe sometime early in this race.
Good battle going on for second as Shane Neiswanger has completed the pass on Jared Duda. Josh Robin's gotten around Matthew Weeks, shuffling him back to the 5th position. Looks like Duda's going to battle back, and this is the beauty of this racetrack. It's a short track, but you can see how multi-grooved it is. Progressive banking, 12 to 14 degrees in the corner, giving these drivers lots of options.
For sure. And you also kind of have to navigate like a little bit of bumpiness and finding the right line. I think if you go too low in 1 and 2, it's sometimes you hit the bumps pretty good, and then you go too high in 1 and 2, and there's bumps up there too. So, of course, once you get side by side and battling, you kind of have to navigate those bumps just the best you can. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a driver's racetrack. I love this place. It's so much fun to see the different options, and yeah, you just keep the speed up, which is also a very underrated part of this track. Not lots of momentum for a short track.
How about Josh Robin, maybe the first driver to venture up there above that higher set of hash marks as he's ripping the top line. You know, we talk about obviously the championship drivers, those in the hunt for the title, but you kind of look at some of these other drivers that this season has been a bit of a struggle. Josh Robin coming into this race still looking for his first top 5, only 6 finishes inside of the top 10. This week at Iowa, next week at Texas, you know that he and a bunch of other drivers in the same situation, they're trying to end out the season on a high note, maybe build some momentum towards season 12.
For sure. A lot of these drivers too, this league has been around for a long time, our 11th season here, and it's a league where, it looks like Christian Peterson maybe disconnected or had issues, because as we talk about Josh Robin, he's out front. A great way to try to get that great run by grabbing the lead here.
Inherits that race lead in unusual circumstances, but nonetheless, now he's got the clean air. How about this battle back here? Hunter Madalinas, he was all over the back bumper of Matthew Weeks, now jumps to the outside and he will complete the pass. Now, the problem for Madalinas is there's not a whole lot of more spots to make up ahead of him. He can only pick up 4 more positions. If Matthew Weeks can stay in touch with him, Matthew could still potentially have the points lead going into next week. So right now, the goal is different for both these drivers. For Weeks, it's keep Madalinas in tow, keep him at least within striking distance. For Madalinas, it's have yourself quite a bit of a gap. While he moves forward, he wants the 56 to drop back.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the way that they both kind of operate too. We've seen Madalinas be a guy that is consistent lap times, running the same line all the time, moving, potentially moving forward if he's mid-pack, or if he's leading, holding on to the lead. And where Matthew Weeks is maybe a guy that is a little better on the long run. So I think Weeks, he's probably, he sees Madalinas there and is happy to be at least close to him here after, knowing that he probably is maybe saving a little bit, and knowing his competition with Madalinas, he's going to be driving away more than likely. So 6 points right now. I think if you're Weeks, you're just going to do your thing. That's what got you here.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we talked with Matthew, he said, Iowa, I'm kind of 50-50 about. Texas, I know I've got a good chance at. So tonight might be about survival, preserving what you can. If you are the points leader coming into this race, he's trying to hold off a hard-charging Elliot Henderson there in the number 37. How about Nicholas Caressel? He was hounding Shane Neiswanger for the 3rd position, still is here as they make their way sliding off of turn number 4. Caressel's had a very good season. He just missed out on the playoffs, but he sits second highest in the stands of the drivers that did not make it into the postseason.
Yeah, and then, I was kind of saying before we had the surprise of Peterson having his issues about guys like Josh Robin and Nicholas Caressel, people that have maybe not been here for many seasons that are trying to ultimately just get the whole feel of a full season. It's a long season, and I think a lot of them maybe get a little momentum for a future season, and maybe prove that they can do it. Ooh, gee, Nicewanger getting the wall a little bit. That's going to give Caressel that third spot here, down into one.
Caressel up onto the podium. We had that onboard there, and this track kind of reminds me a little bit of Dover in a way, where you see these trucks rise up out of the corner. The car kind of sinks into the banking as they enter into 1 or into 3, carry it all the way through 2 and 4, but then it kind of rises up in elevation in preparation for the straightaway. We saw Shane Nicewanger get up into the wall, similar, the same deal like at Dover, where the truck in this case unloads, gets a little tight, and doesn't want to turn. Might be something that these drivers are going to have to deal with the longer that these runs go on.
Sure, it's a tough track on the long run. You don't know which way you're going to go. I see some of these drivers up, being kind of aggressive at the start here, just kind of getting up here. Kind of want to see how long their tires last. See Madalena sneak into the picture here now to the inside of Nicewanger, and I think that we see it all the time. Madalena's here. He's right down on the bottom, using that bottom lane. That seems to be his preferred lane if the track lends itself to that. And he seems to be the only one. I guess a handful of drivers behind him running the bottom, but a lot of these drivers up front using the middle or top right now, just trying to maybe defend their positions.
This series has had tremendous long green flag runs the entire season at multiple venues. This is going to be the shortest racetrack that we've been to in the postseason, the only track under a mile in length at 0.875 miles. With that being said, we saw all the different options that drivers had as they were battling for position. What's that going to give them in terms of options when the leaders maybe eventually starts catching the tail end of the field and starts putting some trucks a lap down?
That can be a little bit of a treacherous thing to navigate. We've seen it in a lot of these races this year. Maybe not as much lap traffic, but also just the ability, if you are able to get to a green flag pit stop, navigating drivers that are on different agendas. Even if it's just a couple laps, you get somebody that short pits and gets back out there on fresh tires, and now they're a second faster or 2 seconds faster at some of these racetracks. It's a little treacherous on that side, whether you're a leader or just a lap car trying to get take advantage of tires or just try to run long. So that's the part that always gets me nervous: is can you get through a green flag run with everybody avoiding each other on those different agendas, and hopefully we get to see that, because it's always fun to watch that challenging aspect of these races.
Yeah, to see of pink there from 9th back to around 12th, 13th, as number of drivers sporting the color here in the month of October for breast cancer awareness. It was a good battle going on between a couple of KFS Motorsports teammates, Jackson Sims and Brent Kingcott. Now, we mentioned about the fact that there's a handful of drivers that really need the 7 and the 56 to struggle here tonight to mathematically have a shot at the championship next week. The first of those would be Jackson Sims, who right now is in the 11th position. He came into tonight 28 points behind the points lead, 21 points behind Hunter Madalenas. Now, the problem for a lot of those drivers like Sims, Henderson, that came into this race in mathematical eligibility, if the top two had some issues, is a lot of times, we've said it all season long here during the playoffs, all the playoff drivers seem to always be in the same place in the field, whether it be at the front, middle of the pack. It's very difficult to make up ground on your own. You're going to have to rely on somebody's misfortunes.
It's especially also, like, as you get later in the season, and I don't blame people, they start to maybe not have as great a chance in the points, and they miss out on some races, or life gets in the way. Well, we have a smaller field tonight, so there's a lot less points for a driver that, if they do have a bad race, to give up, because ultimately you still could score a top 20 with a wrecked race truck tonight with only 22 trucks on track.
Hunter Madalinas on the move, now draws a bead on Nicholas Caressel, looking for second place. Matthew Weeks has moved up one spot behind him into the fourth spot. Josh Robin, who we saw leading in the early going, has fallen back to fifth. We saw him charge up to the front very quickly at the beginning of this race. Maybe wonder if he used up a lot of his tire on the beginning portion of the run and is paying for it as we venture into the second half.
And I think that what I'm seeing, the guys that are running the bottom here, Madalinas and Weeks, are championship contenders. When they run the bottom there, I think it just ultimately just saves your stuff pretty well, and the top lane can sometimes be your passing lane, your opportunity to move forward right away on those fresh tires, and now these bottom feeders are moving forward, and I think that that's a big part of strategy here, and hoping that you get a long run, and it's working right now for that 7.
Things could get very interesting if Madalena starts closing up for the top position. Go back a couple of weeks ago to New Hampshire. Jared Duda was not all that thrilled with the hip check off of turn 4 that put him in the wall. Madalena would go on to win that race. It carried over to last week at Chicagoland, where when the 53 and the 7 were in proximity, the 53 didn't give a whole lot of room to maneuver. We're at a short track here tonight, so you got to wonder how hard he's going to race Madalenas if he gets up to his back bumper.
Yeah, there's part of this, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago. There's part of this is a little bit of the relationships you have on track in a playoff system, whether it's this chase format that we use or our playoff format. You got to make sure you have friends that maybe once they're eliminated, or if they're not in the playoffs, they will maybe give you a break, and that's a very interesting part of this. I see here Elliot Henderson working the middle here, chasing down Nicewanger, and I think Shane's been one of those guys that look like he maybe is kind of somewhat in the middle, moved up a little bit at the start, but ultimately maybe burned up a little bit of his stuff, got the wall earlier and getting close to it again there off of 4.
Mentioned about the fact it seems like just about every venue we've gone to when we talk about former winners, Elliot Henderson's name is always in that conversation. This is one of the few racetracks that he has not formally won at here in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. They've run at this venue 3 times in the past. Henderson has participated in 2 of those races, 2 top 10s, 1 top 5, average finishing position of 5.5, but looking to put a 1 in the win column in terms of career statistics at this venue here tonight.
And shout out to, I don't see him racing tonight, Aiden DuPont. He was always a big promoter of Iowa Speedway. For a while there, the series didn't race here, and a few seasons ago, we're able to get back and start running here again. I think it's just been some great racing. I think there's a little hesitancy about is this the place that's best for this series? And so far the last few races we've had, it's been awesome. And so far tonight, looking good with Matthew Weeks looking for 3rd on Caressel. It seems to take a couple laps maybe if you're running 2 different lanes like that. Like I said before, the top lane can kind of be a little bit of a defensive line. You see Caressel able to keep the momentum up and keep Weeks alongside of him.
Yeah, we're starting to see on the multiple lanes maybe. Oh, trouble! That's Hunter Brittle there on the front straightaway. We're under caution now, as he had a little bit of a half loop there towards the inside portion of the front straightaway. I was going to mention, it seemed like if you were on the inside line coming off the corner, a lot of the trucks looked really tight. If you were on the outside line, you were getting a little loose, and then it would push up into the wall. We'll see if maybe one of those 2 sensations bit the 10 as he was coming off of turn 4.
It's easy to do here, especially right here, coming by himself. Almost had it saved, and then maybe that to me is a save. It's just the fact that he had to almost park it to save it on the overcorrect, and it drew the caution.
Well, nobody was really in danger of going a lap down as of yet. I believe that the last truck on the lead lap was still about half a racetrack ahead of the race leader, but in terms of maybe the difficulty of this pit road, I think these drivers will be more than happy to come down and make the pit stops under yellow than rather under green flag conditions.
I think this is a spot where, I thought maybe you could go another 10 to 15 laps on the tires before you considered, maybe hitting a little bit early. I think you could go even farther potentially on a tank of fuel, maybe closer to 50 or 60. But I think that this is a perfect spot to come grab tires and reset. And for some of these drivers, like our championship contenders, back second and third after Duda was able to win the race off pit road there. Now they get to start a little closer to the front, and we'll see if they're, are they aggressive enough to try to hold that spot, or do they fall back a little bit, saving tire again?
It's like for the most part, just about everybody held serve in the positions they came down pit road, especially the top 5. This will be a big break for Jared Darling, who was the only truck 1 lap down. He'll get the free pass, get back on the lead lap, and he's got himself a fast truck. I was watching him. He was battling with drivers up there in the top 15, latter half of the top 10. So now you put him on the same lap as the leaders, maybe not be the last we've heard of that one truck tonight.
For sure. And I think we've said it all season, and one of those guys that, like, man, it's just so close to grabbing that win, and I'd love to see it before the end of the season, whether it be tonight or next week. So that's just so many times he's been so close this year, and you hate it for somebody to be that close and ultimately not get it done. I think our other guy, Jackson Sims, who still has a shot to win this title, even though he hasn't been able to get the victory here in the league. It's obviously great seasons, regardless of not being able to get to victory lane.
We told you a little bit earlier on that Christian Peterson fell out. He has not returned. Looks like he is out of the race. Will finish in 22nd tonight. So after starting on the pole position, looking for his season-leading 6th victory, looks like that's not going to be the case. And we were talking about the run that he was having the last couple of weeks. A win here tonight, would have been interesting to see what the mathematics would have been in terms of his eligibility for the championship. But obviously this DNF now takes him out of the running.
That's, we don't have mechanical failures like you do in real life stuff, but you do have technology errors. So if it's a issue with connection or a computer issue, that's too bad. But he was hoping for it was a long shot to go, but would have needed to really win tonight and maybe even win next week to have a shot.
Flag back in the air as lap 40 goes on the board. Great launch for the control truck of Jared Duda. He'll have them stacked up for second place. The two drivers battling for the points lead, possibly the championship next week at Texas. Weeks on the inside, Madalinas on the outside. Looks like Madalinas had a much better drive off the outside of the corner.
Got Kressel up on the top. We saw him be one of those trucks that maybe used up their tires early on the first run. Sometimes that's just the only way you know how to drive this track, so if you get a lot of short runs, that works. So it might be the strategy. Is back here we got a lot of those pink trucks, lots of side-by-side racing, even 3 wide. Everybody staying pretty cool for some significant battling going on here after the restart.
You had Matthew Durr loose off the inside of turn 2. Spencer Owens was loose off the top of turn 2. And that number 14 Giant Tiger truck of Gavin Fitzgerald, he was right in the middle of all of it, was able to get by both of those drivers as they're battling tooth and nail just outside of the top 10, a little further up to the front. Caressel trying to get to the right rear quarter panel of Shane Nicewanger. He had his hands full right there, gathering that truck up off the exit of turn 4. He'll complete the pass though, move into the 4th position. Caressel will drift back to 5th.
Cressel's not done with it though. He's gonna jump down to the inside. These guys are all over the place, which is fun to see the different lines. Oh, we got some smoke off of 4 there from one of our leaders. Ultimately, everybody keeping it together, though.
Looks like maybe we had an incident with the 4 of Rod Fastnow potentially last time by on the front straightaway. He lost a ton of distance to the race leaders. That might have been what that smoke residue was from.
For sure, it's we've seen this.
And there Josh goes the Rubin!
I was just gonna say we saw the the 10 with the self spin, maybe potentially with rod. I was like, that's something that it seems like is so easy to do here. It's so it's so inviting when you're racing 2-3 wide here after a restart, and you're Josh here or any of the drivers racing in this race, where you like come off the corner and you're like, man, if I just go a little bit faster, get a little bit more exit speed, I could maybe clear the driver on my inside or make a run here, and you just overstep it with just a little bit too much throttle, and round goes the 8. Robin pretty much back and forth from the lead all the way now, losing his track position after a spin.
Gavin Fitzgerald got a great view of that as that was right in front of him off the corner. And with seeing a couple of these drivers have this issue, a documented saw a number of drivers really squirrely off a turn 2. Is this the case of cold tires coming into play here? Because we'd run a couple of laps, but had they just not yet quite gotten up to temperature, that they hadn't quite yet gripped into the racetrack to give the stability these drivers were looking for?
It definitely could be that, and just part of, especially when you're in the pack like this and you're racing pretty hard to start, you're maybe not using up your stuff right away, and you don't really even notice that that you have the fresh tires, and you got to maybe wait for them to come in a little bit, or you forget that you don't have that kind of grip like you do when you're running it every single lap at at a higher throttle speed, just because you don't have maybe there's so many trucks around you that you can't get back to the gas like you're used to. So it's just a part of the ever changing. Every time you go into the corner, it might be a little different, and part of some of these tracks that have a little bit of wear and also just a little less grip. I know that bottom off of turn 4 here at Iowa is just so finicky, and it's so easy to maybe clip a line and kind of spin out, and we've seen it a couple times already tonight.
Split strategy here under this caution. Looks like the top 9 elected to stay out. 10th place on back came down pit road, took on tires. Looks like maybe one driver elected to go, or 2 drivers elected to go with fuel only. Do you like that call here? We only ran about, 4, 5, 6 green flag laps, and we're already coming down, putting on another set?
Yeah, I'd be a little nervous if you're taking tires right now. I like the idea of, if you're in the back half of the field, to put gas in it. You can go maybe another 8 to 10 laps farther than these leaders if we are able to get to a green flag pit stop. I always like that for these trucks in the back half of the field, because with a short track like this, if you do get green and you make pit stops under green, it's really easy for these front runners to kind of get down a couple laps potentially by the time they make their pit stop. So it kind of puts them in a tough spot, and they don't really have anything they can do about it because they don't have as much gas as you do. So I like that advantage if we do get to green flag pit stops. But using the tires right now might be a little early. I think we you still have some tire sets to be aware of, so you want to make sure that you can have enough for later in this race. So, this is only lap 49 of a 172 lap race. It's a longer race, and if you get a run of cautions, you're going to want those tires potentially to use them when the time comes where you really need them.
Well, the 2 drivers that went with fuel only, 10th restarter Kirk Gibson, 13th place restarting Robin Durr. Shane Neiswanger, who's going to restart 11th, is the highest on fresh tires. You see him back there on the inside of row 6. When that caution came out, Matthew Weeks had managed to get ahead of Hunter Madalinas, so he will share the front row with Jared Duda on this restart. Madalinas, Caressel, and Henderson going to be the top 5. So right now, Matthew Weeks would open up another point on his advantage to Madalinas as they are currently scored. Getting ready for our 50th lap to go up on the board. Looking for another good launch is Jared Duda, and looked like Madalinas might have been trying to anticipate. Ran into the back of the 53, and that kind of stifled his momentum as he tried to get up to speed.
It's going to give the top 4 a chance to kind of get single file here. Henderson alongside of Sims, battling for that 5th spot. All these drivers, especially Madalinas and Weeks, back down to the bottom, but Russell ain't giving up on that middle to top lane. It's what's been working for him so far.
Well, we talk about the battle between Weeks and Madalinas. There's ongoing battles still in the point standings, too. There are drivers that realize they're not going to be able to win this championship, but that doesn't make them any less motivated to finish as high as they can in the overall standings at the end of the season. Sims and Henderson, who were side by side for that 5th position. Sims was 3rd in points coming into tonight. Henderson 4th in points, separated by 3 points. The both of them would love to be able to end out the season 3rd in the standings, so that's still under contest.
For sure. Why not? Why not? Especially for some of these drivers, it might be a career opportunity to finish up in that top 3. And once the season's over, here Madalina's looking to the inside of Duda. He's been kind of just looking a little bit to the inside. This is the best position he's been in. Looks like he's going to clear him off of 2.
He got a massive run off of turn 4, and the crossover was so easy for him to make a move, and now he's going to get turned. He saves it, but he got some help from Jared Duda in the 53, who dove it to the inside for the lead. Just like that, Madalina saves it, but it's going to drop all the way back to almost outside of the top 10.
We talked about it. Obviously, the bad blood between some of these drivers, especially the 7 and the 53. I thought that there's I don't know, maybe we get a chance to look at it maybe under the next yellow or when we get a break in the action, but I think the 53 really drove it in there deep, and I'm not sure if Madalinas gave him a window, but it's going to reset Hunter's night here. He's going to be in the hornet's nest right now here up on that outside. Heck of a save, though. I give him a ton of credit for that to ultimately save his opportunity.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, Elliot Henderson suffered a DNF, Shane Neiswanger suffered a DNF, and they were at the time up in the conversation to battle for the championship. One trip to the garage area, and it's almost like your championship hopes evaporate. If Madalinas had not been able to gather that thing back up and was dealing with a damaged truck the rest of the race, or may not have even been able to continue, it may have been all over but the crying as far as the championship for Matthew Weeks. So at least able to gather it up. He'll try to work his way back forward, but also that half spin, I guess we'll call it, what did that do for the tires on the 7 for the remainder of this run?
It definitely don't hurt. I imagine that's it's you're gonna make your tires a little bit mad when you do that. But I think ultimately he's fast enough to be able to maintain here a little bit up to 9th now. We're gonna see if we can see the replay of this. But I think you just gotta this is a big moment in this opportunity to win this championship for Madalinas. You got to be focused on getting back in this. Yeah, there's just a little bit of room there for Duda. He really drove it in there deep. And I would say that the bump was maybe a little bit of net code. It was really close. But, I'd like to think that if you're Duda, you maybe don't drive it in that deep, especially on lap, 50-something. But there might have been just enough room there to make it at least a little bit okay. I don't know. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain. From what it looked like to me, and of course, we just have the replay to be able to look at, it looked like he didn't quite have enough of a run to be able to make that crossover move, and he, as you said, he drove it in quite deep there. Granted, that with that onboard, there was a little bit of a lane available, but I think that this early on in the race, he probably wouldn't have made that move if it was somebody else. We've already talked about the history between him and the 7. I think that made the difference.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, even if they didn't touch there, by the middle of the corner, that 53 had enough momentum, they maybe would have touched at some point in that corner. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. But, Duda has moved back here, fallen to 3rd, as Kressel and Neiswanger have moved out to 1st and 2nd, and even kind of pulled away a little bit here. Obviously, 2 guys that were fast on the short run in that first run, going up here and grabbing the lead and kind of pulling away. I'll say last week, listened to you guys and watched you guys on the broadcast. I wasn't able to join, but seeing Shane Neiswanger have a great run and ultimately come short at Chicagoland, I think Shane, he's a guy that probably just really would love to get back to victory lane and hasn't been able to do that this year. And man, it's been a long time for him. So opportunity last week that didn't come to fruition, but maybe a chance here tonight.
Motivation has definitely been there, and remember too, he was the first one on fresh tires on this restart. He's putting them to good use as he tries to make his way to the inside of Nicholas Caressel for the top position. I think another reason why Caressel was able to get around Jared Duda, he's been one of the few very early on in the run to migrate up to the outside line, gets those big runs off of the corner. Now, maybe much like we saw Josh Robin fade back when he made that early charge to the front beginning portion of this race, we may start to see the 40 fade, but for now, he's been able to do a pretty good job. You wouldn't know that there was a tire difference between him and the 49.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference of, like we said, that we were maybe a little, confused as to why they grabbed tires right now, and just because they only had a couple laps on the tires for those that didn't pit. So I don't think it's obviously we've seen Niswanger be able to drive up here and grab the lead, and I think he's going to pull away here with those fresh tires, but it's, it's not significant because of the amount of laps we did go before we got another caution there. So, we all questioned that that pit stop, and now it looks really great. Especially if we're able to go green here.
There's some others that are really gaining some ground here on their fresh tires as well. From 7th place on back, Matthew Durr, Spencer Owens, Jared Darling, they all took on fresh tires under that last yellow, and they're up in the latter half of the top 10 right now. Starting to notice some of those on the older tires fading back. Jackson Sims has gone all the way back to 12th. Ashton Lawson all the way back to 15th. Brittle back
using
to
up
16th.
that extra set isn't going to maybe...
Kincott up and into the wall there off of turn 2. Because Madalinas, remember, he had that half spin. He's on older tires. He's starting to drift back as well. The fresher tires to his outside. Madalinas in danger of dropping out of the top 10 as he's trying to hold off the 5 of Brent Kincott, looking back from the 1 of Jared Darling, who was a lap down early on in this race. He missed the start, did not roll off the grid, started from pit road, got the caution, got the free pass, and now he's up here solidly inside of the top 10. There you see our live points. With Madalinas losing ground, Matthew Weeks up inside of the top 5. What was a 7-point advantage for the 56 coming into tonight has now increased to 13, and one would certainly have to wonder what Matthew Weeks would consider a comfortable advantage going into Texas next week to wrap up the championship. Again, looks like it's now doubled the interval from 7 points now back to 14 points as Spencer Owens jumps to the outside of the 7 of Madalinas. Still multiple grooves being used here right now. All the fresh tires are migrating up the track. All of the older tires are trying to hug that inside line, preserve what they can. Elliot Henderson up here in the 37, I believe, is one of the highest running drivers on the older tires. And he's got the fresh tires barreling down on him in the form of Matthew Durr and Jared Darling. Right now hanging on to the 6th spot is the 37. Cy Jackson, we're on board with him. He just got around Elliot Henderson for the 5th position, working his way forward. Cy would be the 2nd highest running driver on fresh rubber, only to Shane Niswanger. Looking back, you see them kind of stacked up a bit there behind the 37 of Henderson. Cy Jackson's had an incredible stint of runs here the last month or so. Nearly picked up the victory at Talladega. Had a great run going last week at Chicagoland. Is a big save by Jared Darling as he's split by Madalinas and Spencer Owens. That's around P8. Obviously a couple of caution laps intermingled in this total, but for the drivers that did not come to pit road under the last yellow, they are approaching 40 laps on their tires. For the drivers that did pit, they would be at 30 laps, as Jared Duda now looks to the inside of Nicholas Caressel to move back into the second position. Both these drivers on equal footing in terms of tires, as is Matthew Weeks, who is right behind them in the fourth spot. Three entirely different lanes there as Duda takes the middle. Caressel on the top. Matthew Weeks tries to wrap the bottom. You can see that run, that surge that Caressel's able to get off the corner. Duda drives it in deep and should clear across the nose barely. Here comes the crossover from Caressel, heading into turn one. Shane Neiswanger, you're loving all this going on in the rearview mirror because obviously nobody in this type of Caressel saves it as he got a little bump there from Matthew Weeks going into three. A couple of great saves here during the course of this run. This one by Nicholas Caressel, who's only going to lose one position in the outcome. Not sure if his momentum stalled out when he was trying to tuck up in front of Matthew Weeks, or if Weeks just misjudged the braking zone of the 40. The contact was made, and Weeks picks up the third spot. Caressel now going to have his hands full here, as that's going to bring Cy Jackson up to his back bumper, as well as Elliott Henderson. Keep an eye on the interval here and see if it's possible on this run. Can Jared Duda on 10-lap older tires reel in Shane Neiswanger? It's maintained roughly between 2.5 to 2 6/10. Neiswanger with the advantage as far as the tires are concerned. Battle for fourth. Correction, make that for fifth. Possibly for fourth, as Henderson looks to clear Cy Jackson. He'll do so. Jackson with the crossover, though, off of 4. And he'll go to the inside into turn 1. Madalinas looking on. Madalinas has been able to make his way back forward. He was in 10th. He's now worked his way up to 7th. Looking ahead at the battle side by side. Currently for 6th. Oh, Cy Jackson! Loose right to the inside of Madalinas. He'll head to the infield grass. I believe we are going to remain green. But a close call there for Hunter Madalinas, as Jackson does keep it going. But he's going to fall way down the running order, all the way to 17th. He was battling at the time for 5th.
I think you got me over there, Seth.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I had some a little bit of issues, but as I was watching some action there with Cy Jackson going for a slide and able to keep this green, I noticed this 4-tire strategy from Shane Neiswanger is working for him, but not necessarily for some of these other drivers. It's, a lot of these guys that pitted back on lap 36, still 2nd through 6th here. So interesting how it's worked for Shane to be able to grab this track position, but ultimately kind of somewhat of a wash for some of these drivers that didn't come get those tires. They're able to still keep some of their track position right now, and ultimately not much of a difference in the tires.
Yeah, not once, not twice, but 3 times we've avoided a caution coming out, breaking up what's now been a 40-lap run. As we're closing in here on the halfway point, where are we looking, do you think, for that? I think it was 8 or 9 drivers that didn't come to pit road under the last yellow when they might be making the dive to pit lane for fresh rubber.
Yeah, I think, ultimately they're going to want to go, you want to go as far as you can here just to, avoid going down multiple laps. I think you could potentially go 60 laps or so. I think that's pushing pretty far. That would then kind of split this up to another 60 to go, but that's going to be really far to be able to cut this in only one more stop the rest of the way. So we'll have to see if any of these drivers, maybe there's a little bit of saving going on just to make sure you can get close to that window. But I'm fascinated to see if they can do that. The guys that pitted on lap 46 probably could potentially make this on just one more stop. Oh, we've got three going around.
King caught Brittle all around off of turn 2.
Of course, you talk about the strategies, and then caution comes out anyways.
Never fails.
Yeah, we saw the self spin. This time it's the 3 drivers spinning off of 2.
They were 3 wide, and they were pushing 4 wide there off of the second corner. I believe the 2 middle trucks were the ones that got together, Lawson and Kingcott. They were getting crazy back here around the 12th, 13th position. Just kind of ran out of room.
I will say, Lawson just kind of sliding in there 3 wide was kind of a bold decision there, but it, they just kind of then came together because it was all so close. I think Hunter Brittle, he was the kind of the 3rd driver to drive into this. I think he maybe locked it up enough to avoid getting any contact. We'll see here. Might be tough to see from this angle. Oh, maybe just a little bump there, but I think Brittle knew that they were going to be sliding across his nose there and did his best to avoid it by just locking it down and spinning with him. We'll see here.
He's on board with Brittle. I don't think he made any contact whatsoever with that 5 truck. And very minimal contact, as we saw the onboard with Lawson with his left front into the left rear of the 5 of Brent Kingcott. So it doesn't look like anything that's going to take any of those drivers out of the running for a good performance here tonight. Everybody, surprise, surprise, came to pit road here to take on a fresh set of tires, so kind of a reset of those varying strategies that we were going to be looking at if we had ended up seeing the pit stops take place under green.
And I think this all puts them, basically in the window to make it now for sure on just one more stop if we do go green. I don't imagine we will, but you never know. And we're kind of saying, as I jump back on there with you, that the taking those sets of tires, that really worked for Shane Neiswanger to be able to get up here and grab this track position. And now, because we had a long green flag run, I don't think that they're going to have a lot of issues with tire sets tonight. If you get a couple just perfectly timed cautions here, maybe every 20 laps or so you get a caution, then maybe he'd wish he had those. But right now, that kind of worked. And you talked about it while that run was going, but a nice recovery for Hunter Madalinas, and now he's going to start on the outside of Matthew Weeks here in row number 2. Kind of back to where he was previously on the run before this last one.
Neiswanger and Duda, they're going to be the front row. Our 2 championship hopefuls going to share row 2 with Weeks and Madalinas. Then it's going to be Elliot Henderson, Nicholas Caressel. They've been up in the top 5, top 10 all night long. Spencer Owens, haven't talked much about him. He also gained track position on those fresh tires that last run. He'll restart 7th. Jared Darling, after being a lap down the early going, restarts 8th with Matthew Durr and Josh Robin, the top 10. Looks like 20 of our 22 drivers are running on the lead lap. The 26 of Ashton Lawson, not sure if he's out of the race or if he's on pit road getting repairs. We'll update on that here in just a moment as we get ready to go back green. We're well past the halfway point here tonight in the Casey's 150. Getting ready now to see if we're going to be running to that final pit stop, the money stop here tonight, if you will.
2 weeks with a great restart, able to grab second here. You see Madalinas and Duda back together here. We'll see if there's Matthew Weeks got a little loose off of 4 there, really middle of the corner. Oh, they're both loose again! Getting into one another.
Jared Duda got saved in a sense there by Hunter Madalinas being to his inside. The two make some further contact, and Madalinas will now bypass him. Here comes Weeks for the race lead on Shane Neiswanger.
Maybe learning a little bit of how long those tires last, and maybe feeling that this is an opportunity to go grab the lead here, and it's going to do it. The other thing.
Jared Duda saves it. Might have gotten a little help from Nicholas Caressel. And now Jared Darling saves it off of 2.
Yeah, it just seemed like all of a sudden all of them are just so much looser than they were. I see even Weeks here leading is sideways, pretty much through the 3 and 4 almost every time he's been through there while grabbing the lead. But yeah, it's just maybe cooling down enough. I don't know, like that would cause too much of a sliding around sensation. But it's they're all over the place.
Now you bring up a great point. I mean, we started this race in the early hours of twilight. There was still sun bathing the entrance of turn 1 all the way over to the exit of turn 2. Now as the sun peaks behind there aren't really hills in Iowa, the fields, I guess we could say. Maybe that track temperature cooling down is giving these drivers a little bit more to work with on these colder tires on restarts, because to your point, it seems like every single one of these restarts, the further we get in, more and more drivers seem to be slip-sliding around.
And Nicholas Caressel ran the fastest lap of the race just that last lap before this last one, so he using that middle lane has been so fast on the short run. See him sneaking into the picture here up to 4th. The other thing I'm kind of wondering with Matthew Weeks is, obviously prefers maybe to run a little bit long and or at least save his tires for the long run. There is a bonus points for leading the most laps. Maybe thinking, well, this is still an opportunity maybe to go up there and grab some laps led here and have a shot at that. I don't know if that's part of it, or maybe just getting away from the chaos, because obviously we've seen it pretty much from every position tonight. Something could happen.
Well, he would have to contend with Shane Neiswanger and Jared Duda for that most laps led bonus point, but at least to your point, clean air on the nose, the chaos is in the rearview mirror rather than out the windshield, and most importantly, he is still on track ahead of the 7 of Madalinas. So that 7-point gap that he had coming into this race, it maintains and actually increases a little bit here, which again gives him the upper hand going into Texas, where he's able to play a little bit more defense, whereas Madalinas might have to try something different next week and go full court offense.
I think the other side of this, I think if you're Matthew Weeks, I think if you're able to gain on Madalinas, by if you're able to beat him tonight and gain a position or two, that's great. If he beats you, you lose a position or two, but there is a bigger swing for winning this race. So if you're the 56 or the 7 and you're able to win, that's that would be a huge advantage, up to 5 points bonus for winning the race, and that would be very handy for next week. Depending on if it's the 56 or the 7, or if neither of them win it, maybe keep this closer.
Madalinas is on the charge. He just got by Shane Neiswanger for 3rd, now putting the pressure on Caressel for 2nd place to have no one between him and the points leader. We do have an update on Ashton Lawson. Looks like he is done for the night. Driver that came in this race 9th in the playoff stands. His playoffs got off to a very rocky start, and he's just not been able to recover since then. Going to finish this evening out back in the 21st position. I was talking about this when you were having your technical difficulties. I want your input on this. If you're Matthew Weeks going into next week, you came into tonight 7 points to the good. Would there be a number you would be comfortable with of the gap between you and the 7 that you feel that it's manageable to be able to take the championship and you don't feel quite as nervous?
No, because I think ultimately the goal next, I think I kind of mentioned about Matthew Weeks, and I think for all these drivers, you got to do what you've done to get there. I think if you go into that race and all of a sudden you have a little bit of a points lead and you're Matthew Weeks, you don't want to start saying, well, I could win this race, but I could maybe take it easy and run 7th. But then all of a sudden 6th place makes a mistake and and you get caught up in it. I think that the number has to be significant enough that if something crazy happens, we saw the technical issues both on my side, but also Christian Peterson tonight. you want to have enough that ultimately, if something like that happens, you'd still have a chance. And I think that would be very tough, especially now Madalena's up to second here. I think both of them are going to potentially have a good night tonight, and really going to be a matter of who can maybe even win next week to take the title. But I think the numbers got to be really big to feel comfortable if you're the leader. I do like the idea. It sometimes is okay to be in second and be able to be aggressive and know that you can put the pressure on, and especially if you can go like Madalenas and be fast here tonight. He's going to probably get to this 56. Seems like he's been slowly creeping in the last couple laps.
Your darling right now in the 7th position. Great recovery here tonight for him after the early issues. Looking at Matthew Durr and a clump of drivers right behind Jared Duda. Eric Kemp, he's had a great night. He's been up in the top 10 pretty much the entire evening. Josh Robin, we saw him charge up the front and lead early in this one as contact made between Kemp and Durr, and Robin tries to make it 3 wide to the right rear quarter panel going into turn 3. This is a battle right now for the 9th position, but you'd think it was for the top spot.
And that top lane for the A truck, you see, when you enter the corner, it just kind of slows your momentum to make sure you can get it turned up there. And by the time you exit, you got a lot of momentum. It's just sometimes you lose, like right there, you just kind of lost the traction and wasn't able to get back to the outside of the 63 and the 18 here. But nice job by Eric Kemp. You said it, pretty much running top 10 tonight. He's going to get clear here, and there goes Robin.
Off the nose of Gavin Fitzgerald. Does a 360 through the infield grass. He'll keep it going. He'll lose a couple of spots in the interim, but that's going to bring out the yellow flag. And is this going to be enough to get us home? Because you mentioned about 60 laps there when we were looking at the possibility of green flag pit stops. We're right around that number of laps left remaining.
Yeah, we'll have to see if... I imagine if we're close, everybody's going to come down here. I think everybody has plenty of sets of tires. I think the drivers that grabbed that extra set still have 2 sets, and the drivers that didn't have 3 sets here. So I think I think everybody's going to probably come down and get tires anyways. So we'll see if that's the case, and then a matter of if they start saving a little bit just to make sure they can make it as far as they. I don't think anybody wants to run the full fuel run just because you'd prefer to come get tires if you can get them, but. We'll see if we get that opportunity. I think there's also going to potentially be another yellow or 2 anyways, but everybody coming down for tires and fuel right now.
Looked like from that onboard, maybe Josh Robin either trying to turn off the wall as he had that high exit off at turn 4, or may have been thinking about having enough of a run to make a crossover on Matthew Durr, but had Gavin Fitzgerald to his left rear quarter panel. The contact made. He spins through the infield grass, doesn't make contact with anybody else. Harmless spin on the front straightaway, bringing out this most recent yellow. Potentially the money stop here. Let's see if the Crews can get that 56 off of pit road first. It's going to be close, but he is indeed going to beat Hunter Madalenas, Nicholas Caressel, and then it was a very, very close battle between, it looked like, Spencer Owens and Shane Neiswanger for who's going to be eventually 4th and 5th.
Tell you, I'm really interested to see, and like we talked about, Caressel tonight, Neiswanger, and now Spencer Owens sneaking up here up to 5th, up 14 spots from where he started. Nice job of slowly making his way up to the top 5 here. But that's 3 drivers there that Caressel, Neiswanger, Owens. I imagine they all want to win, but you wonder what their thoughts are when you have your 2 championship contenders up here battling for this lead. I like to think that Caressel is going to be aggressive here and try to use that middle to top lane. He's been working, and ultimately, Weeks and Madalenas haven't really used that. So maybe it gives him an opportunity to get up there and try to grab this lead and do it cleanly. But that's got to be something that some of these drivers are thinking about. You don't want to be the reason somebody loses a championship or make a mistake that hurts their odds to win it. So. We'll see if that's the case, and it'll be interesting to maybe chat with some of these drivers afterwards if that was something they're thinking about here in this late restart.
Yes, caution is going to bring Jared Duda back into the conversation as well. Saw him have that slide and save after contact between himself and Caressel. He'll restart in the 7th position, and it was interesting when I was asking you that question about, is there a gap big enough that if you're Matthew Weeks, you feel comfortable going into next week against Hunter Madalinas? I loved your answer, because if you go back to last season, Iowa tonight, Texas next week, both those racetracks in Season 10, Hunter Madalinas went to victory lane. I mentioned coming into tonight, Matthew Weeks, last time out here at Iowa, started on the outside of the front row, finished in 5th. But last week at Texas, where we're going to the finale next week, Madalinas won the race. Where did Weeks finish? 25th out of 27 drivers DNF'd that race. So to your point, can't feel safe if you're Weeks, even if you end up gaining a little bit of ground as far as the points lead here tonight.
See what happens is starting 1-2 here. Who maybe wants to grab the lead early, and if it's both of them, we might be in for a wild restart here.
Weeks electing the top line here for the restart. First driver to do that. Most of the time, the inside line's been the preferred lane, and he'll cross the nose of Hunter Madalinas, exiting out of turn 2. Do you think, we got a caution. Looks like a problem at the back. Several trucks involved. That's Kurt Gibson, Jared Darling, Josh Robin, Hunter Brittle. I think I saw Cy Jackson down towards the inside wall as well. A half dozen trucks or more collected up off of turn 2.
It might be just close quarters racing here. Just after the restart. Have to see.
I believe Jared Darling may have been the highest running of the drivers collected up in this.
Kurt Gibson restarted 12th, so somewhere kind of just on the edge of that top 10.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like he
got loose on that inside line.
The self-spin that we've seen a couple times tonight.
Unfortunately, this spin did not have the truck migrating down to the apron. You see it sliding back up the banking, and there's just nowhere for other drivers to be able to go. Like Robin Durr may have pancaked the right side of his machine off of turn 2. There was another driver I saw that spun down towards the inside as well. Couldn't make out who that was, along with the 85 of Cy Jackson. There you see it, Rod Fastenau. And the 4 was the other driver involved. Looks like about maybe 7 trucks involved in this wreck.
Off of 2 there, just kind of similar to what Hunter Brittle did earlier. Just kind of lock it down and slide to the inside and hopes that you miss everybody, and I think he did. It's one of the toughest things when you hit a restart. You're pacing, you're slow, you're basically kind of amping yourself up for, okay, here we go, we're going to get on the restart, I got to get going, and the last thing you're thinking about is coming off of turn 2, trying to get momentum that you're going to have to check up and avoid something, and it's sometimes a perfect storm for, a handful of drivers to just kind of you're not in that moment of being on your toes sometimes, because you're anxious to get back going and try to gain some position. And we know how restarts are an opportunity to grab those positions, and I think that sometimes that just lends itself to a bigger incident than it has to be, because everybody is on that agenda of trying to get those positions right away.
It's our biggest wreck so far here tonight, just north of 50 laps to go. Most of our other previous cautions have been solo truck spins. Saw some pretty significant contact made there for a number of those drivers that were stacked up on the outside line. Now, documented that this is a short track. What type of things would that damage affect for the remainder of this race for those handful of drivers? Or are they, do you think, still going to be okay, still going to be able to be competitive?
I think maybe after you get rolling and you get a long run, it might kind of slow you down a little bit to have that damage and a little bit of aero. But, I think still being a little bit of a short track, you can probably still maybe salvage something. I see, Robin Durr's been on pit road for a long time, multiple laps down here. Jared Darling's going to get back out there, but kind of late back out on track. Looks like the 18 of Kurt Gibson he's trying to roll out here. Just now he's going to go back down pit road, so maybe more damage than he thought. Hunter Brittle also spent a long time on pit road fixing damage, so we'll see how those guys roll here and if they're able to stay with the pack. Otherwise, who knows, a couple more incidents, he can maybe gain some positions.
So this is interesting. We saw Matthew Weeks take the outside line in the previous restart. That's because he had his Dark Horse Motorsports teammate Shane Neiswanger on that outside line. Dark Horse Motorsports was lined up 1, 2, 3 on the inside line this time. Weeks, I think, was hoping for a buffer between him and Hunter Madalinas. He didn't get it.
And Madalinas is going to stay right on the bumper there. A little farther back, Jared Duda had a 3-wide move to the inside, and it just kind of stalled his momentum out, and he kind of fell back here, but gives Elliott Henderson the opportunity to get up there. Gavin Fitzgerald up just outside the top 5 there. Meanwhile, up front, Nicholas Caressel's going to try that outside lane. He got a little loose there. That's going to give Neiswanger an opportunity. Maybe, no, he pulls back behind him.
Russell has loved that outside line ever since the start of this race, migrating up there again, trying to make something happen as he's going to get a good run. Caution's going to come out. It's Gavin Fitzgerald around here just before the start-finish line. He was up in, I believe, the 7th position.
Yeah, I just mentioned him being able to get all the way up to the 7th position. And we'll have to see if this was little self-spins or incident involving multiple cars here.
It just loses it. Tries to get back to the throttle there off the exit of turn 4. Back end starts coming around. He's just not able to gather it back up. You can see the hands there. He can feel the back end coming around, putting as much wheel into it as possible to save it. But at that point, you're just kind of a passenger, and you're just hoping you don't overcorrect it into the outside wall.
Yeah, nice job by those drivers that, Dudo's right behind him there and able to check up just enough to kind of let Gavin go for that slide and not, plow into him. Front runners all staying out here, which I think is the right call yet. Ultimately haven't gone very, very far on these tires yet. I saw Matthew Weeks that last lap before the caution hit the fastest lap of the race. And now looking in the back, we see Lewis Woodall is on pit road. Jared Darling obviously was maybe working on that damage again. Josh Robin, Hunter Brittle, Gavin Fitzgerald just brought out the caution. So a couple of the drivers in the back hitting pit road, but Eric Kepf also down on pit road. So we'll see if maybe he's able to grab some fresh tires here and try a little different strategy and try to move forward. We saw that work so well for Neiswanger. I think it's, for Neiswanger, it worked so well because he just had a great restart. It was really early on in that run where he was already up into the top 5 and was able to grab a handful of positions early and then take advantage of those tires with a lot of those front 5 being kind of spread out and able to go up there and grab the lead. So we'll see if not a lot of laps on these tires for these front runners right now, so it's probably not going to make much of a difference to grab tires yet, but we'll see. Maybe if you get another caution here a little bit, some others come down. If you're the one that pitted on this lap, maybe you can stay out and gain some track position that way.
What's interesting, because there's kind of some similarities with Eric Kep's strategy now to Shane Neiswanger's strategy earlier on. Coming down, taking 4 tires and restarting in 13th. Neiswanger ended up restarting in the 11th position. The drivers in front of Eric Kempf have got about 10, 11 laps on their tires. Granted, not all of them green. That's about the same that what Shane Neiswanger had out his windshield when he restarted back outside of the top 10. The other thing that I see as a similarity too is we went about a 35-40 lap green flag run when Neiswanger was able to cut his way through the field up to the front. We're coming up around here to less than 50 to go, so we're kind of right in that same type of a window now for Kemp that Neiswanger was able to utilize to get to the front earlier on in the race.
And I think Eric Kemp, I think preseason of this season, he kind of talked about I don't want to say for sure because I'm not sure I've heard much, but since the start of the season, but talking about maybe this is maybe one of his last full seasons of running this league. Been around for pretty much all of them, and it'd be great to see him get a great run or maybe even steal a win here before the end of the season. It'd be a heck of a story.
One of 3 drivers that has run all the races here at Iowa in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. Lewis Woodall, Shane Neiswanger. The other 2 is Matthew Weeks. Another great launch. Was hoping, I think, again for the 49 to be able to get to the outside of the 7, have his teammate blocking for him, but not able to do so. Hunter Madalinas into the 2nd position and now on the hunt of Matthew Weeks for the race lead.
Nice job by really this top 7 now all get single filed out here and back to where everybody kind of doing the same things they were doing that worked earlier with running the bottom for Weeks and Madalinas. Here we see Neiswanger more towards the middle, Kressel up top. I think love to see if some aggressive moves here by Neiswanger and Kressel. Could they get up here and challenge Madalinas here, or is Madalinas going to try to hold on? I think that what I've seen from the long run, I feel like though Matthew Weeks has been so good this season on the long run, it sure seems like Madalinas tonight is better at the longer runs here. So maybe potentially just biding his time here to see if he can potentially make a run at the 56 here late in the run.
Yeah, we've seen Madalinas make some passes around the outside, so you got to wonder if he might try migrating up there if the 56 does not give him the bottom. There you go, up above the set of hash marks there, trying to see if he can get that run off of 4, maybe pull that crossover, move down the front straightaway.
Lots of run there, going to look to the inside. Going to give him position there. I thought that, oh man, float up the track off of 2. I thought through 3 and 4 on the top side that last time, it just didn't work as well early on in the corner, and then all of a sudden he had that massive run down the front stretch. Now Weeks used the middle lane to kind of defend a little bit and grab that lead back. It's a little bit more of an arc from the 56 entering the corner, and I don't know if that's, you'd think that would save the tire a little bit more, but it just seems to work where Madalinas is kind of cutting off the entrance, especially down into 1.
Yeah, visibly, to your point, you can definitely see Madalinas is able to be a lot more aggressive on entry, but then when Weeks takes away his line, then he gets the momentum from the center of the corner off. So if you're Madalinas and the 56 is going to keep trying to hook it down to that yellow line, you might have to start thinking about some other options further up the racetrack here. Shane Neiswanger trying to close his way up and maybe take the pressure off of Matthew Weeks. Kressel still doggedly in that extreme outside line, trying to get a run on Neiswanger for the 3rd spot. And don't look now, I've been keeping an eye here. Up 3 spots since the restart is Eric Kempf in that 63, now trying to put the pressure on Jackson Sims to move into the 9th spot.
Just seems like the Weeks and Madalinas, we saw them early on in this run, or early on in this race, kind of fall back a little bit on the start, but I think now they know they want to keep this position. Kressel looking for 3rd. He's been running the top, had to go to the bottom with the momentum down the front stretch, then in 1 and 2 kind of slid into Neiswanger a little bit there, but Shane's able to hold that position for now in 3rd. I imagine if you're Shane, you want to go up there and maybe help Matthew Weeks by trying to battle with the 7, but it just seems like they can't get there. Those 2 front runners doing a great job here of hitting their marks and kind of holding them at bay.
Yeah, right now it is all Dark Horse Motorsports and Spectrum Racing in the top 5. The 56, the 49, the 23 out of Dark Horse, the 7 and the 40 out of Spectrum. So teammates may be able to kind of work and help each other right now. The problem is they're all separated by 1 truck.
Neiswanger goes up more towards the top, kind of almost taking Kressel's line away. It's going to give Owens an opportunity to get a little closer to Kressel here, but love the different lanes you see out of 3rd, 4th, and 5th there. They all try to gain some ground on each other, and those front 2, where they're basically running the same lane, just a little different how they're entering the corner. It's fascinating to watch how they all use the different lanes to make whatever work, and then it's just a matter of what that does to the tires. Does it burn up the tires, maybe running a little higher? Is that going to affect some of these drivers? We saw that first run where we did go pretty long. Just all of a sudden, a couple of those drivers just kind of fall back really fast, and you wonder if that would potentially happen to any of these 5. And now you see Jared Duda's in 6th, leading that group. Are these 5 up here using up their stuff? Oh, here comes Henderson looking to the inside of Duda for that lead of that second group.
Yeah, there was nearly about a second from 5th place Spencer Owens back to 6th place Jared Duda. A little more than a second right now, as there's the Eric Kemp taking a step out, this time on Bren Kincott, looking to move up to the 8th position. The longer this run goes, the more it's going to benefit this 63 as Kincott gets the wall. I was kind of worried because it was looking like we were trending into little spurts, little runs, and then a caution coming out, and that would not have helped Eric Kempf. The longer we go and the more those tires wear up ahead, the more his fresher tires are going to gain an advantage, and I believe he's got enough laps, and the lap times are consistent enough that he could do it.
And slowly working his way through traffic. Obviously a veteran of this league and really a very clean racer, so probably being pretty nice to these drivers as he's navigating this top 10 to move his way forward. And yeah, like you said, he's ran top 10 all night tonight, and now up to 8th here with the fresh tires. It's got to be fun to pass some of these drivers and take advantage of the fresh rubber.
Adelina's has been searching that last time around. Not this time, but the previous lap. He went up to the outside line again through 3 and 4. It just doesn't look like he's able to get the power down from the center of the corner off. So he's migrated back down to the bottom. It looks like more so him going on the attack. It looks like he's just kind of hovering there, forcing Matthew Weeks to look in his rearview mirror, then out the windshield, and hoping that if the 56 makes a slip up and opens up the door, then he can take advantage.
I imagine if this race comes down to just these two battling for the win here, I imagine whoever finishes second, regardless of what the points look like afterwards, it's going to be a little deflating to know that the other guy grabbed those extra 5 points for winning this race. It's a huge part of this. It's a little different if they were battling right now for 5th and 6th and just that 1 point. This is a huge opportunity to put pressure on the other guy headed into Texas next week.
Both of these drivers have been the epitome of consistency this season. A total of 7 victories between the two of them. Matthew Weeks looking to tie for second most wins on the season with Madalinas and Daniel Nanny at 4. Madalinas looking to tie Christian Peterson for most wins on the season at 5. To your point, those 5 crucial bonus points for winning this race could be a huge difference maker between now and next week when we go to Texas for that championship race.
I think if you're, even if you're Weeks and you do fall to second here, you're probably going to have the points lead by just a couple points. But then go into Texas, a win by Madalinas could, with those extra 5 points, would be enough that it wouldn't matter what Weeks could do if it's close enough. So that's the other part of this too, is knowing that those 5 points next week would be a huge thing. And now you look at it, Madalinas being second, he's 14 back. It's gonna. That's a much larger gap because Weeks has got those 5 points right now.
So you're basically looking right now at a difference of minus 14, so what would it be, about minus 6, I think, going into next week. It may not seem like much, but man, it does mean a lot. And the fact that both of these drivers, you see them up front running first and second here tonight. It seems like wherever we go, they always seem to find each other on the racetrack. Every venue, whether it's a short track, a super speedway, doesn't matter. They always seem to be in the same vicinity. I guarantee you they will find each other and be around each other for a majority, if not the whole race next week as well.
It's got to be a little frustrating when you're Madalinas to know, like, you got to gain a little bit of points here, and the only way that happens is if your competitor isn't by you. So this run here, we got I don't know, maybe. Like I said, I thought Madalinas looked a little bit better tonight on the long run. It just seems like that's somewhat backwards than what these two drivers have been able to do this year. So I still think he's maybe kind of just waiting it out here, sizing him up, maybe trying to save his stuff for a little later. We still got 20 plus laps to go. You might have, looks like maybe we have one lap truck that we're going to catch, at least, maybe potentially more, depending on if more drivers fall back with the damage. But going to be kind of clean track for these guys. I think that it's a matter of waiting to the end here, I think, for Madalinas to see if he's going to make that move. I think maybe saving his stuff right now.
I have to chuckle when you say the word save, because remember, we had a 5-car pack. Where'd those other 3 trucks go? They're 2 seconds back. I'm not sure these 2 guys are saving a thing.
Been both sliding into the corner a little bit there through 3 and 4. See Madalinas maybe grab the wall just a little bit off of 4. Saw some sparks flying there. It's in all of the racetrack for sure. And you talked about Matthew Weeks saying last week that he wasn't really sure on Iowa, and if you're Madalinas, we talk to these drivers all the time, and they always say that they listen back to the broadcast. I wonder when they listen to the interviews, if you're somebody like Madalinas and you're like, oh, this is my opportunity. He's not going to be able to contend for the win tonight, and then all of a sudden now he's up here contending for the win. Like I said before, it's got to be a little deflating to know that was your opportunity. You thought there maybe was that chance, and now you potentially could lose some points. I think it'll be really fun to see what happens here. Now we see maybe some of those tires from the farther back drivers. We talked about Caressel, using up his stuff early. It's worked for him to be able to grab a top 3 spot most of the night tonight, but now we get a long run. It's given Owens a chance here to the inside. Duda slowly creeping in on Caressel to battle here for this 4th spot.
Yeah, it's a battle side by side, but it could very quickly turn into a pack of 6 all the way back there to Jackson Sims in the 9th position. They're all starting to close up here, along with Elliott Henderson and Eric Keff on those fresh tires. Looks like maybe those fresh tire advantage has gone away now. It's kind of evened out with the rest of the drivers around him, as Owen still cannot complete that pass on Caressel. These guys have been side by side for the last 3 laps.
Caressel going to try to... I think one of these times he's going to kind of have to drive in there a little deeper just to clear Caressel and try to... One's going to try down on the inside, ultimately just kind of being smooth. It's one nice thing about the variable banking here, different lanes. Ooh, getting a little close off of 2 there as Duda goes alongside of Caressel.
Just a little too high that time off of turn 2 for the 40, and Duda's going to get on by. Ooh, little contact there from Caressel. Remember, we saw Jared Duda have that half-spin save off the nose of the 40 earlier, and then a little bump right there. So maybe another underlying rivalry that we're not exactly aware of budding between those 2 drivers, as now Caressel starting to really fall back. Henderson's going to go by. Here comes some more drivers trying to take advantage. Looks like the tires have really gone south on his machine.
It's like I said, it's just how this sometimes, different drivers, it's more their style to use up their stuff early, and sometimes if the cautions fall, that works. It's more, some drivers, it's the opposite. They want to save their stuff and they're good at it. And there's a lot of times different drivers. I know that you go to different racetracks and it seems like, I just can't seem to keep the tires on it here, or there's other tracks that's like the only way I can win is by saving my stuff and being good on the long run. But for Caressel, we've seen it now just a few times now tonight where it starts to move backwards towards the second half of the run.
First time tonight we might be talking about traffic. They're less than a second away from Rod Fasna, who's on the tail end of the lead lap. Be the first time here that Matthew Weeks might have to deal with dirty air. Madalinas has had has had dirty air for most of this run already. When Weeks had the clean air, Weeks going to complete the pass around fast now. Look at the ground that he's actually been able to gain here on the 7. What was only maybe about a truck length and a half, now is opened up to about 3 or 4 truck lengths.
Yeah, doing a great job of basically just being a little bit faster than Madalinas a couple times. Madalinas did try running way up by the wall through 3 and 4 a couple laps ago, and I think he lost maybe a tenth or 2 trying that. I I don't blame him. You got to try something if you feel like you've been close enough, but not close enough to make a move. Try something a little different to see if there's something there. I think, unfortunately, there wasn't, and he lost some ground, and now it'll be a little bit of work to try to get back to him. Now this last lap, passing the 4, just lost another 10th because of the having to change lanes to do that. So about 7 tenths between the two of them right now.
Clean air is just so important at a track like Iowa to have that downforce, and when we were on board with Hunter Madalinas earlier, saw him off the corner really fighting the wheel as it was pushing tight. You can still see that truck a little unsteady through the center of the corner as he's trying to get the power down. He's going to close the gap up a little bit here, about maybe 4 car lengths the difference between himself and Matthew Weeks. The problem if you're Madalinas, though, is you're running out of laps. That time by when we cross the stripe, 8 laps to go, and these laps tick away in a hurry. Just a little over 20 seconds to complete a lap here at Iowa.
Yeah, I was thinking, if you're leading this race with this long run towards the end, and great job by Weeks to have basically the first half of that run. That 7 truck was in his mirror, and to not make a mistake that whole time, that's tough to just continue to hit your marks and do that. All these guys back in the back half of the top 5 battling for 4th. Duda's able to grab it. Owens now up here, and how far back is Henderson and Sims here looking to try to get a top 5. They can get around Owens.
Jackson Sims has been dealing with connection problems all night long, but blinking in and out, so credit to him for sticking it out here, and right now in line for a top 10. To your point, might be able to snipe a top 5 before this race is over. The gap has actually increased between first and second, another 2 tenths lost by Madalinas to Matthew Weeks. What a difference a season makes, because as I mentioned, Madalinas dominated this race 1 season ago, led all but 1 lap. I don't think he's led a single lap here tonight. We've had Weeks out in front. We had Neiswanger earlier on in this one. Jared Duda out in front. Christian Peterson led some laps in the early going before he had his connection problems. So the fact that we haven't had the 7 truck out in front a single time tonight with the clinic he put on 1 season ago is incredible.
Yeah, it's just a matter of if you're Weeks, you're hoping to get to the white flag here. I see some great battling right here between Sims and Henderson. So some battles farther back for 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. They're all kind of battling. You just got to make sure that it stays clean and green. If you're Weeks, that's what you're hoping for here. Is Sims does the slide off of 4 and gonna battle back, try the outside. Oh, get the wall a little bit. Hold on to it.
Center in there on that top side, and the back end almost didn't plant as he's driving it for all he's worth to try and get around Elliott Henderson for that 6th position, also trying to hold off the 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald. That might be a brewing battle here inside of the top 10 in the closing stages, but 2 laps to go. Just a little over a mile and a half left for Matthew Weeks. Wants to make it through 3 and 4, and as you said, wants to breathe that sigh of relief seeing the white flag displayed in the flag stand. He will see it this time by 1 lap to go here at Iowa. He came into tonight 7 points to the good. Had a top 5 run here last season. He played the strategy, got the track position, held off Hunter Madalinas. He's going to join Madalinas and Daniel Nanny with 4 victories on the season. The Casey's 150 goes to Matthew Weeks at Iowa.
Neiswanger coming home in 3rd. Jared Duda able to bounce back with the 4th after that big slide. Oh, we got one around off of 4. Looks like Brittle.
Hunter Brittle up against the outside wall there in turn 4. So some contact coming back here to the checkered flag for position. Brittle will cross the line, but last truck on the lead lap in 17th. And there you see it. The gap doubles here tonight. 7 points coming in, 14 points leaving, going into that championship race next week at the Texas Motor Speedway.
We talked about it. You know, no lead is safe. It's but obviously to be able to grow the lead tonight for Matthew Weeks, it's got to feel at least a little bit of less pressure for next week. But still going to be a two-horse battle, and I think if you're Madalinas, you can go there and contend for the win and put all the pressure on Weeks being able to get a solid finish and complete the night in order to grab the title.
It is indeed going to be mono between Weeks and Madalinas. Sims on down mathematically would not be able to accumulate enough points even with a victory next week to be able to snipe the championship. Weeks will be taking on the defending champion for the title next week at the Texas Motor Speedway as he celebrates here tonight at Iowa Speedway his fourth victory on the season, and interestingly enough, his first victory at a short track this season as well. All of his other victories at mile-and-a-half type racetracks. So, big statement victory for him here tonight, holding off his closest competitor for the championship in Hunter Madalinas. We say we go down to victory lane and dial him up. And Matthew, as the guys up here in the split-second broadcasting booth, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Wow, I'll tell you what. We talked to you about this racetrack last week. You said, I don't know, I'm 50-50 about it. I'm not too sure. You pick up the victory here tonight. You hold off Hunter Madalinas. I gotta ask, what was the heart rate like in that truck on that final run?
Oh, it was up there. I mean, I'm sweating so bad. My shirt's sticking to me. I'm stuck to the seat. I mean, I just drove harder right there than I ever to stay in front of him. That was my main goal. I didn't want him to pass me. So I drove as hard as I could. Usually I don't ever drive that hard early in a run, and I was worried I was going to have no rear tire in the last 10 laps, but luckily that dirty air, I was giving him some dirty air and he was driving just as hard as me. So it kind of played out perfect there.
With the uncertainty of how this racetrack was going to play out for you, how much effort went into maybe practice and preparation for tonight? And during the course of the race as well, what type of things were you able to learn that you then applied when you had the track position late?
No one's going to believe me, but I don't run any laps prior until we show up, until the league session's up, ever. I do that in every league. I mean, so I really didn't touch the track until today, and then the first thing I do is I go out and I run a quick lap, a Q lap just to see how it felt. And I'll do that a couple of times just to see how hard I can drive. And then we'll do a 20, 25 lap run right in there just to see how the tires wear and run different lanes. And so I did that a lot in practice, run different lanes, trying to figure out where I was burning the rear at more. And I thought it was going to be trying to not slide the tire. And then as it got darker and the track started cooling down, I think it really tightened the car up to where you can just drive as hard as you possibly could and didn't really have to worry about the rear that much. So I think that really played in a factor out right there at the end of driving hard. I was hoping we had a long green flag earlier in the race because I felt pretty good taking care of the rear, but all in all, I think we did pretty good. Like I said, I'm 50-50 here. The other league I run in, it's like I'll run top 5 or I'll be 20th. So that's why I was 50-50. It's just a hit or miss here for me. And luckily tonight was one of those nights we just hit it.
Well, we go to Texas Motor Speedway next week, the Legacy version. Now, you've got a victory at the updated Texas version here this season. You also have a victory at another D-shaped mile-and-a-half racetrack Legacy version of Atlanta. 14 points to the good. You've doubled your total between you and Madalinas from coming into tonight to going into next week. How comfortable do you feel, and what kind of options does this now give you, giving yourself a points increase in that cushion?
It gives me a point increase. I know that if he wins the race, I can finish second and I can still win the championship. So I think going into next week, my main goal, like I did tonight, is just racing him. I'm not worried about the field. I don't care about who's all out there. My main goal is just try to finish as close as possible to him as I can at Texas. And like I said last week, we go to Legacy Texas, I think is probably one of my best ovals. Other leagues I've ran in, I went like on a 5-win streak on different leagues, always just running there. So it's just one of those tracks I have a real knack for. It was the first track I ever raced on iRacing in the truck when I got my C license. So it's just one of those tracks I have a knack for. So to have that cushion, that's even better, because I thought I was going to lose like 5 points tonight, to be honest. Because I remember last season Hunter was really fast here and he was quick tonight too. So I really thought I was going to lose some points tonight. So that buffer is going to help. And the main goal is just try to be as close to him as possible at the end of that race.
Well, the 5 bonus points for winning here tonight, huge in your attempt to next week be hoisting the championship trophy. Congratulations on the victory here tonight. We'll let you get back to your celebration and your preparation for next week and that title battle at Texas. But first, Matthew, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Shout out to you guys in the booth, man. I preach it every time I'm up here. You guys do a great job, and I always have a good time going back and watching the races. Like I said, I go back and watch last seasons and previous seasons and stuff that y'all do, and y'all always do a great job. And shout out to everyone that was racing up front there in the entire race. That was some hard, clean racing up there, and it was fun. It's been a while since I sweat that much during an iRacing race, so that was good. And shout out to my buddy Justin Vandermeer at JV Designs, painting this beautiful truck. I'm glad to keep putting in victory lane. Hopefully we can. I'm hoping next season I can get my real number on this thing and we can get to 11. Get to 11 in this league, because that's like my number. And I know I won't reach a lot of people, but huge shout out to fucking Hamlin. Oh, sorry, excuse it on the language. Sorry, I'm hyped because he won his 60th race. That's my guy. So get a little props to the real guys out there and everyone that's part of this league and everyone that watched. This was an awesome race and it was fun, and I can't wait to go watch it back. And Dark Horse Motorsports. I appreciate those guys for letting me drive their truck this season. I came in late with no team, and I asked him, and he gave me the opportunity to drive for him, and we've been putting it in a good use for race for these guys and put them for a chance to win a championship here for them.
Well, Matthew, congratulations on the job well done here tonight. Your 4th victory on the season. Best of luck next week as you'll be in that championship hunt at the Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, have a good one.
At the week's 14 points to the good going into next week. The guy he'll be battling, Ross, I believe you've got a hold of him.
Yeah, Hunter, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Come home second tonight, really able to stay as close to Matthew Weeks there through the end of that last run there, or at least through the first part of that run. Maybe just need a little bit more. What were you looking for to try to get to the bumper of the 56 and have a chance there to try to get that win?
Yeah, Weeks was unbelievably fast the whole night. I tried racing him in the first half of that run. I knew I was really fast long run pace, but I wanted to spend most of that run focusing on trying to get the race lead, get some clean air, because I knew clean air was going to be really important. Tried getting really close to him to get him loose, and he just held the pressure really well. Not much more we could have done. I tried giving it everything to get to the lead, and he did about everything he needs, and he's been doing that all season. So he's been doing a great job fighting for this title, and I mean it's his to lose going into next week. And seeing from him being a rookie last year to how he's racing this year, he's definitely done a big step up on pace.
You mid race, we had some moments. Obviously, you're up there battling for the lead. You got in an incident with Jared Duda, and it a heck of a save. We'll give you a ton of credit for the save to be able to save your night and still have a chance to battle for the win in the end. What's that moment like when you have to kind of readjust and ultimately fall back, lose some of your track position, and have to gather it up, be on some tires that you've used up a little bit from a slide, and try to regroup and get back up there?
Yeah, I have no idea what happened there with Duda and all that. I mean, I felt like I cleared him just fine off of 2, and he decided to just drive it in there in 3 and 4 and basically take me out. I mean, we've had some bump-ins this season. New Hampshire was our latest one, and I guess he's just holding a little bit of a grudge. But yeah, I after that spin, I caught it and fell deep, fell about 10th, and I kept running the same line I'd been running the whole night. Just running the bottom, saving tires, and it came back to me, passing all those guys that were on pressure tires than me, got all the way up to 4th, and was catching Weeks and Duda before that caution came out. But yeah, it was just kind of calm myself down because, there's a lot of anger after, something like that happens. But, it's just calming back down, getting back to your, line and getting back into a groove.
Well, credit to you for the save and the reset to be able to get back there. And though it's not the result you wanted, second tonight and ultimately still giving you a chance for next week. We'll talk about next week. I think I know your answer, but what's the goal next week and how do you attack Texas with still an outside shot to battle for this championship?
Well, yeah, the goal's always, but it's going to take a win, and it's going to take some misfortune from Weeks. Anything could happen though. So, I'm going to go out, give it my best shot that I can to, put myself in the best position to go win the championship. But, in the end, Weeks has done an incredible job building the points gap he's had. So, we're just going to have fun next week, and enjoy the last race of the year.
Well, we'll give you this opportunity now to, hand out any thank yous or shout outs before we let you go.
Yeah, just big thanks to my whole team, Spectrum Racing. We all ran pretty well tonight. I know Caruso was up there. I know Josh Robin was up there earlier in the race. We were all kind of, up front, taking positions, moving back and forth. Yeah, just a big shout out to y'all for putting on the broadcast and everyone at GLR.
Thanks, Hunter. We'll maybe talk to you next week.
Yeah, hopefully so. Appreciate it, guys.
And let's see if we can get a hold of the driver that brought it home third place here tonight. Was out in front for a good portion of this race first half as well. Shane, nice one here. Shane, you got a copy?
I do. How are you guys?
Hey, I'll tell you what. Getting hot here towards the close of the season. A fourth last week at Chicagoland. Podium here tonight. We saw you play some alternative strategy that gained you some good track position as well. Obviously, a lot of speed in the truck. What more did you need in terms of tires to be able to stay up there with the top two?
I didn't have the pace those two had. What I needed was when I took that alternate strategy to, I needed that to go green. We got a couple yellows there in between, and that first one that came out sort of ruined my plan. I saw there was a little bit of an opportunity there, and nobody in front pitted, and they brought half the field down with me, and I think I got out to about a 2-second lead, and I was about a tenth a lap quicker when we all sort of plateaued out. And my goal was going to be try and build up a big enough lead. They were going to have to pit first. And then I just wanted enough of a gap that I could eat whatever time they gained having the fresher tires. I come back out with a tire advantage. And then hopefully I could have made my way back up with the better tires that I'd have at the end of the run. But that didn't happen. Still a good run. A little bit too late for me, how the seasons went, but it is good to be talking to you guys. It's always good when you make it to the broadcast booth. And good job tonight for Weeks. He's keeping Dark Horse Motorsports in the team championship fight. So props to him for a great race.
We ended up seeing this race have about a 50-lap run to the finish, and we saw you play the alternative strategy first half of the race. I almost wondered if more drivers were going to maybe come down pit road when the 63 did, maybe try and play the alternative strategy again. Was that something that entered into your mind during that portion, or did you think there would be too many laps that the fresh tire advantage might go away?
Well, from where I was sitting, we had 5 sets tonight, if I remember correctly. Everybody who didn't pit with me would have still had 2 sets. A lot of the guys up front would have had 2. Maybe some of the people in the back that did come down pit road. Not sure how it shook out at the end. My thought there was I have 1 set of tires left. I can't burn them with 50 to go. If I had 2, if I was in a position where Madalenas was, Weeks, those guys had the pace they didn't need to pull that strategy. But I'm thinking maybe Elliott. He probably had a set left at the end of this race. If I was someone like him, I would have tried it.
Obviously, as we mentioned, you've had a great couple of weeks here. Next week, an opportunity once again to try and get a checkered flag before season's end. We've talked about a number of drivers that have been so close in the conversation all season long, and you've been one of those drivers. So, what is the goal for next week? Obviously, not in the hunt for the championship, to give you a little bit more freedom to kind of be a little bit outside the box in strategy like you were here tonight.
if the opportunity presents itself, a lot of guys in here are better at that than me, and sometimes it works out for them. A lot of times you put yourself you're trying to get ahead in points, and you take those alternate strategies, and if it doesn't work out, it ends up really bad for you. So I know from where I'm sitting, I'm going to try and do the same thing I do every week. If I think there's a good opportunity to go off cycle, I'll do that if it gives me an advantage. Unofficially, I just was working on the points. I think we are tied. Dark Horse Motorsports and Mon Motorsports are tied. So between, I think, them and then Spectrum's a few points behind. So there's still some teams running. So my focus is maximizing my finish to help my team.
Well, we're going to be definitely keeping our eyes on that team championship next week as well in the finale in the Lone Star State. But Shane, congratulations on the great run here tonight. Top 5 the entire evening. You started there, you finished there. 3rd place this evening. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody at Dark Horse. Again, Weeks ran a great race. He's been doing a great job for us all season long. Spencer Owens, he got a top 5. I think he deserves a shout out. He ran a really good race, as well as Matt Durr. I know he was up there. He was making some ground with us. Something didn't work out for him at the end. We'll talk about it later. And Hunter Brittle, he's been great too. So all of those guys make it really fun to race. I want to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. As always, you've been doing a great job. Everybody that watched tonight, thank you for watching. And shout out to my dad. I think I heard the broadcast on for a little bit in the living room.
Well, Shane, again, congratulations on a solid night here at the Iowa Speedway. Best of luck next week. You look to close out season 11 on a high note at Texas.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get to victory lane. Just seem to be a little bit off of where Madalinas and Weeks and Duda and Peterson are, but we'll get there. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. Best of luck to you. Shane Neiswanger, our 3rd place finisher here tonight at the Iowa Speedway. But the Casey's 150 goes to the 56 of Matthew Weeks, who now joins Daniel Nanny and Hunter Madalinas for 2nd most victories on the season at 4, 1 behind Christian Peterson. And Ross, coming into tonight, we said it was going to be the Weeks versus Madalinas show for the points. Did we know that it was going to be for the win?
Well, I guess, looking at all the races we've had this season, I think that there was a chance of that. I think we thought Christian Peterson qualified up front and was leading early, had his issues, and then Shane Neiswanger, you just talked to him, and on the long run, maybe he was an opportunity to go up there and try to win this race, but the second half of that race, really, it came down to our championship duo, and of course, that's how it's supposed to go, I guess. So I think that you're going to see a very similar thing next week. It's just a matter of if Matthew Weeks can, basically hit the same marks as Madalinas and ultimately do he can do just a little bit less and still grab the title, but just a matter of navigating any potential issues. We saw Madalinas tonight have his moment where he had to rally back from. Weeks, at one point fell back a little bit on the first run. You just never know. There's a lot of different things that can happen in these races, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
You're looking at your finisher results here in the top 10. Jared Duda out in front for a good portion of this race. Spencer Owens passed a lot of trucks tonight. He started out back, moved his way up 14 positions to finish top 5. Elliott Henderson with a great run, as well as Jackson Sims there, 6th and 7th. They were top 10 trucks all night long. Gavin Fitzgerald had to come back from a late race spin to still finish inside of the top 10 in 8th. Caressel, he was out front for a portion of this race. Top 5 truck, but the tires kind of went away late. He'll finish in 9th, and Eric Kemp, his fresher tires back during the beginning of that 50-lap run to the finish got him up to finish in the top 10.
You mentioned, I just wanted to say, Shane Neiswanger getting a chance to chat with him there in third, and he gave thank yous to a bunch of people. He's the one that's also every week I hear him on the radio before being an admin in this league, trying to remind everybody of the rules before going to the green flag and everything. So shout out to him for playing both sides and also trying to score points for his team. It looks like he's got a lot. He's doing the points while he's doing the interview. Like he's got a lot going on over there. So the second half of the top 20, Brent Kingcott brings it home 11th. Matthew Durr in 12th, Lewis Woodall in 13th, Jared Darling. A lot of these drivers, including Darling, had their moments just either self spins or sliding through and getting caught up in some action with the couple wrecks that we had. Cy Jackson 15th, Josh Roba, we talked about him and up there even leading a little bit, led 13 laps and then up and down all the way to the back after a spin off of 4. Hunter Brittle, we saw him in a few incidents tonight, but it comes home in 17th. Rod Fowles now back in 18th. Kurt Gibson 5 laps down, and Robin Durr minus 54 in 20th.
Durr, as well as 20th and 21st, did not reach the checkered flag. A couple of drivers with the playoff banners above the windshields finishing at the bottom of the running order. Ashton Lawson involved in an early yellow, and Christian Peterson, who started on the pole, had connection issues early and will go from top of the pylon to the bottom of the finish. It results 22nd here tonight for the 5-time winner. Well, what an incredible race here tonight. And what was 7 points between Hunter Madalinas to points leader Matthew Weeks has now increased to 14. Double the interval. And it was interesting, Ross, when we talked with Matthew, he said, I wanted to make sure I had a gap enough that if he won, I could at least finish second. He's going to be keeping himself in the same zip code as that 7 truck all race long next week. That sounds like that's the strategy.
Yeah, and I think unofficially with 14 points, I kind of did just some quick math there while we were doing the interviews, and really that's about a 7th place finish is enough, even if Madalinas is able to win the race, lead the most laps, get the fastest lap, even get the pole is another point there. So I think his goal, as much as maybe finishing second to Madalinas, that's a great goal. I think he's got some flexibility really just to focus on a top 5, and who knows, maybe some of those points early on in the race with the pole and fast lap, maybe you can grab some of those and keep them from Madalinas. But also you gotta sometimes, like I said tonight, you gotta do what got you there, and one way for Matthew Weeks to maybe make sure that he doesn't finish outside of the top 5 is to just go win. And I think he's going to have a chance at that with the success he's had at mile and a half. So I think really both him and Madalinas are the favorites, of course, to potentially win the race. And then who knows? You got, Nicewanger mentioned Peterson, Duda, some of these guys that have some great speed. They might be there contending for one last checkered flag next week in the final race.
It will certainly be interesting to see what the conclusion will be here in Season 11 of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. Next week, we're in the Lone Star State. It's the legacy version of Texas as Hunter Madalinas and Matthew Weeks go to battle to see who is going to hoist that championship trophy. Everybody else, they're going to be gunning for that checkered flag just as badly. Be sure to join us next Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the finale of what has been an incredible season. Thanks for joining us here this evening from the Iowa Speedway. Matthew Weeks takes the Casey's 150 here tonight. For Ross Brockman, our producer, Jeff Johnson, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week for the championship finale at Texas, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of Split Second Broadcasting.